A Flame Beneath the Crown. Chapter 1, Shadows of Duty. The forest's fog clung to Prince Kael like a shroud, muffling the world but not his doubts. At 23, he carried a crossbow not for glory. Glory was a lie spun by bards, but because his father, King Aldrich, demanded the dragon's head. Kael's heart, heavy with years of silent obedience, ached for the quiet of his library, where books didn't judge. His dark hair was damp, his gray eyes scanning the mist, every snap of a twig a reminder of his inexperience. A scent of cinder and musk hit him, and his pulse spiked. "You're a terrible hunter, princeling," a voice drawled, smooth yet edged with pain. Kael whirled, crossbow raised, to face a figure against an oak, tall, silver-haired, with amber eyes that burned through the fog. Scales glinted faintly along his jaw, marking him as no man. Kael's breath caught, not from fear but from the weight of those eyes, holding a story he couldn't yet read. "You're the dragon," Kael said, voice steady despite the storm in his chest. He should have fired, but something, instinct, curiosity, stayed his hand. "Soren," the dragon shifter corrected, his smirk masking a flicker of weariness. "And you're Kael, the king's shadow, who'd rather think than fight." Kael stiffened, unnerved by Soren's insight. "Why burn the villages?" he asked, duty clashing with doubt. Soren's smirk vanished, his voice raw. "I didn't. Your father's men did, to justify hunting me." Kael's grip faltered. Lies? Or a truth he'd been too blind to see? Soren stepped closer, his heat a tangible force, like standing before a hearth after years of cold. "Shoot me, Kael, or listen. But don't waste my time." Kael's mind screamed caution, but his heart, traitorous, lonely, yearned to trust. Soren's gaze held no cruelty, only a defiance born of survival. "Talk," Kael said, lowering the crossbow, his choice a crack in the walls he'd built. Soren exhaled, smoke curling from his lips, a ghost of his true form. "Your father wants my kind gone. I'm the last of my clan, hunted since I was a child." Kael's chest tightened. He'd seen his father's ruthlessness but never its depth. Soren closed the distance, his breath warm against Kael's ear, voice low and urgent. "Help me expose him, or we're both ash." The proximity sent a shiver through Kael, not of fear but of a longing he didn't understand. Soren's heat, his presence, stirred a part of him long buried. He stepped back, heart racing. "Prove it," he said, voice rough with unspoken need. Soren's grin was sharp, tinged with hope. "Follow me, then. But don't blame me when your world burns." As he vanished into the fog, Kael followed, chasing a truth that might break him. Chapter 2, The Lair's Truth. The cave's chill seeped into Kael's bones, but Soren's presence warmed the air, heavy with sulfur and secrets. The lair wasn't a dragon's hoard but a sanctuary of scrolls, maps, and glowing crystals, a mind's refuge, not a monster's den. "You live like me," Kael said softly, tracing a parchment, seeing himself in the clutter of a lonely scholar. Soren, perched on a ledge, gave a wry laugh. "A hermit, you mean? Takes one to know one, princeling." His teasing hit a tremor, as if opening his home cost him dearly. Kael met his gaze, seeing past the wit to the solitude beneath. "Show me proof," he said, needing to anchor his unraveling beliefs. Soren tossed him a charred letter, its royal seal unmistakable. It ordered the village fires, blaming dragons. Kael's hands shook as he read, his father's betrayal a blade in his gut. "Why?" he whispered, voice cracking. Soren's eyes softened, heavy with memory. "My blood holds magic, ancient, powerful. Aldrich wants it to fuel his wars. I've been running my whole life, Kael, hiding who I am." The confession hit Kael like a wave, stirring his own buried pain, years of being Aldrich's tool, never his son. Soren slid off the ledge, close enough that their breaths mingled. "I'm tired of running," he murmured, voice raw. Kale's control frayed as Soren's fingers brushed his wrist, warm and deliberate, sending heat spiraling through him. "You don't have to be alone," Kale said, the words slipping out, heavy with his own longing. Soren's gaze flickered, vulnerable yet guarded. He reached past Kale for a map, their shoulders brushing, the contact a spark in the dark. Kale's breath hitched, his heart a drumbeat. Soren paused, his hand lingering, thumb grazing Kale's pulse. "You're dangerous, princeling," he whispered, voice husky with unspoken want. Kale swallowed, leaning into the touch, craving more. "So are you," he replied, voice trembling. Soren pulled back, exhaling sharply, breaking the spell. "There's a witness," he said, spreading the map. "A deserter in the marshes. He saw the fires." Kale nodded, clinging to purpose, but the air thrummed with what they hadn't said. As they planned, Soren's tail, half shifted, scaled, brushed Kale's ankle, an unconscious claim. Kale's pulse surged, the cave too small for the fire building between them. "Dawn," he said, turning away, afraid of what he'd do if he stayed too close. Soren's soft laugh followed him, a promise and a plea. Chapter 3, Hearts in the Mire. The marshes reeked of decay, each step a struggle against mud and doubt. Kale's introversion craved silence, but Soren's presence, half-shifted, clawed, and graceful, kept him grounded. "Keep up, princeling," Soren teased, his voice lighter than his eyes, which carried the weight of their mission. Kale's chest ached, not from exhaustion but from the growing bond he couldn't name. "I'm trying," he muttered, meaning more than the march. At dusk, they found the deserter's hut. Torin, hollow-eyed, confirmed the letter's truth, handing Kale a ledger of Aldrich's orders. "I ran because I saw their faces," Torin said, voice breaking. "The villagers, burning." Kale's throat tightened, guilt clawing at him for his father's sins. An arrow grazed Kale's ear, shattering the moment. "Trackers." Soren roared, shifting fully, silver scales, wings like storms, and shielded Kale, flames erupting. Kale fired his crossbow, felling a tracker, his hands steady but his heart a mess. Soren half-carried him through the mire, their escape a blur of fear and trust. In a hidden grove, they collapsed, breathless. Soren's hands roamed Kale's arms, checking for wounds, his touch frantic yet tender. "You could have died," Soren said, voice raw, his amber eyes wide with fear. Kale's chest cracked open, seeing Soren's care laid bare. "So could you," he whispered, reaching for Soren's face, fingers trembling. Soren leaned into the touch, his scales cool under Kale's palm. "Why do this, Kale? For me?" His voice broke, exposing a lifetime of abandonment. Kale's heart stuttered. "For justice," he said, then softer, "and for you. You're everything I didn't know I needed." The confession hung fragile between them. Soren's breath hitched, and he closed the distance, their foreheads pressed together, noses brushing. "You'll ruin me, princeling," he murmured, his hands sliding to Kale's waist, pulling him close. The embrace was desperate, charged, their heartbeats sinking. Kale's fingers dug into Soren's shoulders, craving more, but Soren pulled back, eyes blazing. "Not here," he said, voice thick. "You deserve better than mud and blood." Kale nodded, aching, the ledger heavy in his pack, their unspoken love heavier still. Chapter 4, Fire and Promises. The rebel camp hummed with defiance, tents dotting the mountains. Kale and Soren presented the ledger to Lisa, the scarred leader. "This could end Aldrich," she said, wary. Kale's quiet logic, detailing an infiltration plan, won her trust, while Soren's wit softened her doubts, his stories of dragon lore weaving hope. Kale watched him, heart swelling, seeing the boy who'd survived alone now fighting for a future. That night, by a fire, Soren sat close, their thighs pressed together. The rebel songs faded as Kale felt only Soren's warmth, his presence a balm for a lifetime of isolation. "You're good at this," Soren said, voice soft, eyes tracing Kale's face. "Leading. Caring. It's more than I deserve." The self-doubt pierced Kale, who saw his own unworthiness mirrored. "You're wrong," Kale said, taking Soren's hand, their fingers lacing. The touch was an anchor, electric. "You've given me a reason to fight." Soren's eyes shimmered, and he leaned in, their lips meeting in a kiss that burned away the world. It was slow, desperate, Soren's heat flooding Kale's veins, his hands cupping Kale's face like he was something precious. Kale melted, fingers tangling in Soren's hair, pulling him closer, their breaths a shared rhythm. They parted, gasping, foreheads pressed, Soren's tail curling around Kale's waist, possessive yet tender. "I've never had this," Soren whispered, voice cracking. "Someone who stays." Kale's heart broke and mended, his thumb brushing Soren's cheek. "I'm not leaving," he vowed, the words a lifeline. They held each other, the fire crackling, their love a fragile flame against the coming storm. Chapter 5, Ashes and Beginnings. The capital's gates loomed, a symbol of Kale's past and his defiance. He and Soren led the rebels, the ledger their spark, its copies igniting the crowd's fury. Aldrich's guards fell to Soren's flames and Kale's strategy. In the throne room, Aldrich faced Kale, his sneer cutting deep. "Traitor," he spat. Kale's voice was ice, forged in pain. "You betrayed your people first." The ledger's truth spread, and Aldrich's reign crumbled, his own knights turning. Kale refused the crown, naming Lisa regent, his heart too heavy for power. In the palace gardens, under starlit jasmine, he and Soren found solace. Soren pulled Kale close, his scales glinting, his kiss soft against Kale's temple. "We survived," he murmured, voice thick with relief. Kale leaned into him, hands tracing Soren's chest, feeling the heartbeat that had become his home. "What now?" he asked, vulnerable. Soren's lips brushed his ear, warm and sure. "We live, Kale. Together." Their kiss was fierce, a vow sealed in fire, Soren's tail wrapping Kale tight, their bodies pressed close. Kale gasped, lost in Soren's heat, their love a flame no crown could dim. The future was theirs, built on ashes and promises.